New filming location alert. Y'all are in my car. Like, well, yes, like y'all are literally in my car. Like, I sometimes like to rot in here in the back. Um, and that's what we're doing. Um, well, yes. Hi, I'm Jihi Mahalkuya, and welcome to the Writer's Diary. And I'm your host of today. And I unfortunately will be mass recording for the next two episodes, including this one. So the next two episodes will be like literally in my car, like y'all will be in the pit type. Um, but some other updates. Um, I have a pretty exciting day today, actually. I'm going thrifting with a friend. And just seeing the vibes. And we're gonna get lunch. But I had to force myself like no, like I need to record a podcast because I haven't recorded a couple of these episodes in a while. And I also need to work on my manuscript. So I'm gonna be doing that in my car for the next 2 hours, and we're gonna have some fun in thrifting. But welcome, hello, and if you're here, like welcome to the pit type. And today, like we have like a roster, like we have like a to-do list today. Like we are gonna be talking like how to not overshare on your writing, because if you read my Substack, like you know that I love to overshare and on my very intimate and personal details to all the strangers in my life. So where do we draw the line? Like where is the boundary? Like it's very scary, you know what I mean? Like type. And I feel like as it really depends on like what kind of writing you're kind of doing, because if you write fiction, you can kind of cloud all the characters in your real life, because obviously as fiction writers we take inspiration from our lives, obviously, and like from the people that we know, and we turn them into characters, and or like our experiences, we project them into characters. Like obviously, that's like what we happen and what we do. But if you write nonfiction, you deal with stuff that are true. They are, lack of a better word, objective from your point of view, and even objectivity doesn't really, like, she doesn't exist, mama type. So how do we not overshare? How do we not come across as trauma dumping? And can we really avoid that? And I feel like as if you are kind of new to like writing or like nonfiction writing, it's inevitable that you will unfortunately trauma dump. Like it's gonna happen, mama. Like just let it be. But it all depends, I think, as if you are writing for an audience or for online, there are some details that I think are best kept for you and for yourself. Not everything has to be shared on the internet, and that includes very personal and deep things. And that's something that I've kind of realized, that some things are best kept to myself and not in writing. And I've definitely come onto that mistake and being too, lack of a better word, personal and up there on my writing. Strangers don't need to read that. Sometimes things are best kept in the draft. You know what I mean? Some things are just best kept in the draft, in a diary, even. Not everything has to be written and projected into nonfiction. That's fine, and it's all a journey in figuring out, like, how to do that. And I think that, like, if you are not writing nonfiction, I think the one of the biggest things that one of my teachers taught me is to have some distance on an event. If you are writing about something, about what happened to you, and it might be like very traumatizing, I think it might be best for you to not write about it at all. Just like if something happened to you like a week ago, the writing that comes from it is gonna be very raw, like very like knee deep, but it is gonna be very emotional and sad and like Hannah Baker type. But if you gain some distance and clarity, you kind of get a sense of like information and you can kind of analyze it and have a fresh new set of eyes. From my perspective, I think that's when the best writing kind of comes. Like, yes, raw writing is amazing and emotional, but what do you get out of it? When we read, we want something to be, to have like, we want to be analyzing it. We want to have, um, we want to get new perspective on stuff that happened to us. And if you write something that just happened, you're not going to be able to have that kind of new perspective, a new fresh set of eyes. So I think that if you're scared of coming off as trauma dumping, I think it might not be best to write about something that just happened. Or if you are going to write about it, keep it in the drafts. Keep it in the drafts, ruminate on it, think about it, like twist it over in his head, like cook it some grilled cheese type. Like, objectivity is not real, but gaining some distance from the event will give you some sort of clarity and ease and will really like bolster your writing, for my opinion, and what I've learned. And that, I think that also comes with like writing fiction. Because if you are projecting like stuff that happened into your life and like writing into fiction or even maybe like auto fiction, it can bleed onto the page and that gets it feels, I don't know, like unprofessional, for lack of a better word. It feels like cheap. It feels kitschy. It feels edgy. You need distance. Even if you are writing fiction and fictionalizing all the events in your life, you need to have some sort of clarity. And again, I keep saying clarity. You need distance. Like, please, for the love of God, like, get some fucking distance in your fucking life. Like, please. But aside from distance and maybe keeping things in the draft, I think that there are some other like good alternatives to not seeing as oversharing on the internet in your writing or not trauma dumping. And I think that is like, I think another part is maybe putting your life, like in a grand scale of things. And what I mean from that is that like, oh, I is like when you are writing, you are kind of realizing that you are just a small part of, not to sound like woo wee woo Barbie, like you are a small part of the universe and you are also part of other people's lives. And putting that into the context in which what it came from, like you just fell out of a coconut tree, gives also clarity, I think, in my opinion, is putting your life into the context of other people's lives and the universe, like, and the world type. If that makes sense at all. Like, I don't know, girl. We want to read from people who, like, yes, have some distance from an event, but also knows that that event or their life connects in the rest of the world and the universe. That makes sense. If you don't do that, it's just gonna seem like, I don't know, like closed off-ish and very stubborn vibes from my opinion. So yeah, I feel like really putting your life and your events into context really helps to kind of not seem as trauma dumping, but rather, oh, I have knowledge and objective and clarity. Well, objectivity doesn't exist, but you know what I mean. Into what happened in my life. I can reflect on this, I can write about this, and I can get some new knowledge and some new lessons from it. Or not even lessons. Maybe the lesson can be the fact that you were angry that this event happened, and that's totally fine. But you also have to have some clarity and some distance from it to realize this has happened, now I'm gonna write about it. I'm not, it's happened in the past, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm writing. Yes, it happened, etc., etc. And I think this is what happened. Because there's been a recent um in the past, people have kind of talked about like the death of the personal essay, but I think with the revival of it comes from the platform of Substack. And people are writing about like what happened in their lives, like day-to-day lives. Oh, this is what I wore today. This is what happened to me, etc., etc., etc. And I think that writing about what happened and about your life, yes, it can come across as a bit oversharing, but who doesn't overshare? And I think the personal essay coming back is like, yes, there is like the consequence of people like oversharing, which is fine, but people want to be heard and seen and validated, I think. And I don't think it's n- good to get validation from people online. Like, yes, we talk about validation from Instagram and photos, but if you are trying to get validation through writing on Substack, it's the same thing, if that makes sense. Like, if you're writing about an argument or a fight and you want people to go on your side, that's yes, that's fine to do that, but don't come across as objective or very like formal or like very like stuck up. If you're gonna write about emotional and personal stuff, own it. Own it, please. Do not come across as some stuck up person, Substack writer. Like, don't do that. Own your brand or your vibe, you know? But, with the rise of Substack and like personal essays, it really oh my God, democratizes the kind of writing and the fact that people can share about their lives. And it already happens on social media with photos and videos, but now it's more available on writing. Because in the past, we've had to like maybe like people have had their own blogs, but like like in the past, people would have to pitch to publications about like an event in their ride, and they write about it. Like, oh, like an example could be I lost my child to childbirth. I'm gonna pitch and write about a story about that. Um, and the article may come across as trauma dumping and stuff like that, but we want to read distance from it and a new fresh set of eyes and reflection and insight onto how that event kind of shaped them and how terrible it is, etc., etc., etc. But with Substack, you are getting people who have like raw emotional feelings, which is fine. Like, that is fine to be emotional on the internet and to write about it, but just be aware that people are gonna have their own opinions and stuff like that. And people can read and perceive you. You are not a anonymous person on Substack. You are not some writer in the dark, like that no one knows who you are. You are a person and people can see that. Does that make sense? Like, if you are gonna overshare on the internet and just be aware that people can actually see your stuff. And I think that's one of the many reasons that I've kind of been pulling back on personal stuff on my writing in Substack because people can see it. And that's a bit terrifying to be perceived and acknowledged. Like, you can literally see like the apples rotten right to the core type. Um, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna pull back, and some things are just best kept secret, like in the vault, like Taylor Swift, like from the vault type. But I don't know. I honestly don't know if that it made any sense. But on to the reading list. I have been reading. Let me get it up. Hello. This House of Grief by Helen Garner. It is a true crime book about a father in Australia who kind of Um, it's about like a court case about this father, um, who was recently divorced, and he was driving his kids, and the car kind of flew into the river, and all but his kids died. Um, so it kind of goes through that kind of what happened in the case, but I find it to be so surprising and kind of enlightening to the fact that this true crime book is not objective. I think the death objectivity is absolutely refreshing and such a good take. You get to you are perceiving how the court case goes from Helen Garner themselves. You are perceiving the court case, and it kind of goes back between like the present and the past, the court case, and the day or night that the incident took place. So it kind of goes back and forth between that, and I found it to be really refreshing and such a good take on like how to do narrative and um, time structure perfectly. I am really enjoying it so far. I'm about like one quarter of the way. It's just such a good book. And that's my reading list for today. I'm gonna go film another episode, but thank you so much for listening to this episode. All my links and all my work and all my stuff will be down in the description. Thank you so much, and have a good day.